An Israeli airstrike targets the Masna border crossing between Lebanon and Syria, cutting off access to Syria. Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei states that Iran's recent missile strike on Israel is a legitimate right of self-defense. And at least 16 Palestinians killed in an Israeli strike on the Tulkarem refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. It's 4 p.m. Cairo local time and you are now watching Q News. This is this hour's news bulletin, and we'll start off with the latest developments in Lebanon.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
Sirens sounded in Nahariya, northern Israel, as rockets fired from Lebanon were intercepted on their way to Haifa. Hezbollah has claimed responsibility for targeting an Israeli military infrastructure in Haifa Bay. Israeli media has reported that around 25 rockets and drones were launched from southern Lebanon. Sirens sounded in Acre and Haifa in northern Israel, with explosions heard in the area. The Lebanese National News Agency has reported that 2 people have been killed in an Israeli airstrike in the town of Khirbet Silm, southern Lebanon. The Israeli artillery also targeted the towns of Al-Khiyam, Kafr Kila and Odessiya in southern Lebanon. Israeli forces have launched an airstrike on a residential building in the Bashura neighborhood in central Beirut, Lebanon. The strike, which targeted the Lebanese capital, claimed the lives of 9 medical team members and injured 14 others. The health center inside the building. Hezbollah has announced that it targeted Israeli artillery positions south of Kiryat Shmona with rockets. The group has also claimed responsibility for launching a missile strike on the Elania military base in northern Israel. It also fired a guided missile at the Merkava tank near the Melekiya outpost, causing it to catch fire with casualties reported. The Israeli army has issued evacuation orders to residents of more than 30 villages in southern Lebanon, demanding they move immediately north of the Awali River. The army claims these areas contain Hezbollah positions. Earlier, similar warnings were given to residents of towns near the Litani River in southern Lebanon, ordering them to leave their homes immediately.
Amid the intensifying conflict, Israel has expanded evacuation warnings in Lebanon, signaling a broader offensive. Israeli occupation forces have instructed residents to evacuate southern Lebanese towns outside the UN-declared buffer zone, suggesting an escalation of the ground offensive launched earlier this week. By ordering immediate evacuations in 20 additional southern towns, Israel is advancing its incursions, largely ignoring regional and international calls for de-escalation. As strikes continued overnight, a series of blasts shook Beirut's southern suburbs. The escalating violence has displaced nearly 1.2 million people in Lebanon. Over 250,000 Syrians and 82,000 Lebanese have crossed into Syria in just 1 week, while nearly 164,000 are now living in group shelters inside Lebanon, according to Lebanon's crisis response unit. With the conflict entering a new phase, the Middle East remains engulfed in devastation. As the crisis continues to unfold, the toll in Lebanon and the West Bank grows, raising questions about when Israel's so-called limited ground operation will conclude.
Axios has reported that Israel has conducted a targeted strike in southern Beirut aimed at Hashim Safieddin, the head of Hezbollah's executive committee and a potential successor to the assassinated leader Hassan Nasrallah. The strike took place in a Hezbollah stronghold, prompting speculation about whether Safieddin, who is believed to have been in a deep underground bunker, was killed. Israeli officials have confirmed the attack, but his fate remains unclear. Lebanese Transport Minister Ali Hamiyeh has confirmed that an Israeli airstrike targeted the Masna border crossing between Lebanon and Syria, cutting off access to Syria. The strike created a 4-meter wide crater just inside Lebanese territory. The minister added that the attack has closed a main road that had been used by hundreds of thousands fleeing the conflict in recent days. The Brazilian government has dispatched an Air Force plane to Lebanon to begin evacuating its citizens, with plans to airlift 500 Brazilians weekly. Brazilian Air Force Commander Marcelo Damasceno announced that the first flight will carry around 220 people out of the 3,000 Brazilians living in Lebanon who have expressed a desire to return home. And for more analysis on this file, we now move to Hela. Hela, over to you.
Thank you very much, Hani. And for further analysis on the escalating tensions between Hezbollah and Israel, we're joined now by the Director of the Regional Office of the Euro-Mediterranean Human Rights Monitor, Mr. Mohammed Al-Mughabbat. Welcome to you, Mr. Mughabbat.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, Israel has requested UN peacekeeping forces along the Blue Line to relocate. Is this request legal under the international law? And how can the international organizations address these ongoing Israeli violations?
Of course, giving orders by the Israeli government to UNIFIL forces is illegal. All the evacuation orders, actually, that Israel is giving to Lebanese people are also illegal because Israel has no right to enter Lebanon or to bomb any territory in Lebanon. I'm sorry, but I'm hearing myself while I'm talking, so I can't hear you if you're talking back. So going back to what I was saying, so Israel has no right or under international law to invade Lebanon, as they are trying to do, nor bomb any civilian infrastructure. And having, as they call them, military targets inside civilian infrastructure does not give them the right to bomb it. They have to follow both principles, the principle of distinction and the principle of proportionality under international humanitarian law. And when targeting military objects or personnel.
Sir, what sanctions could Israel face after targeting the Lebanese-Syrian border crossing at Al-Masna, which serves as a humanitarian aid corridor?
First, the Masna crossing is not just an entrance into Syria. It's the gate to the GCC countries. All trade with the GCC countries happens through this crossing. In addition, also to the humanitarian corridor that could be used there. So by bombing this crossing, a civilian crossing, Israelis are telling Lebanese people and the world that we will bomb you in Lebanon. We will not allow you to leave Lebanon, and we will not allow any humanitarian aid in also.
Israel conducted a violent airstrike on Beirut's southern suburbs, targeting Hezbollah leaders, which resulted in the destruction of civilian homes. How can the UN Security Council prevent Israel from carrying out similar attacks in Lebanon and Gaza?
The UN Security Council is a bit, dysfunctional lately. So to stop Israel, they just have to exercise their jurisdiction, which they don't want to do because of the veto votes by the US. How can they stop the Israelis from all the crimes that they are committing? They can start first with, economic sanctions, leading to eventually military intervention, which I don't think will ever happen against Israel by the Security Council. So we're witnessing, the downside of international law in general, and the UN itself, and how all these international mechanisms that they were built to sustain peace, international peace and security, are failing to do so, which will eventually also lead to questioning the existence of these bodies.
So could the Israeli officials face international courts for repeated violations against civilians in Lebanon and Gaza?
Well, we have to differentiate between Lebanon and Palestine, because Palestine is a member to the ICC, the International Criminal Court, while both Lebanon and Israel are not members to the ICC. So the ICC in Lebanon does not have jurisdiction. This leaves us in Lebanon with the International Court of Justice, which does not have, criminal justice powers. They only have, powers on civil matters or, advisory matters. And still, the executive power is invested in the Security Council, which again brings us to the veto problem of the US. On another level, you have the international mechanisms under the UN, the Human Rights Council, and the special rapporteurs. They don't have any powers to, stop Israel immediately, but they can document and raise their voices against Israel and the crimes that they are committing. This also leaves us to what can be done to stop Israel. European countries and the US should, exercise their own laws, their national laws that they usually do in other conflicts by cutting trade with the country that is committing all these crimes, putting on sanctions on their officials, and to put maximum pressure and stop all armed support and aid that they are providing to Israel.
Finally, Mr. Al-Mughabbat, human rights violations persist in Gaza and Lebanon. How can the UN Human Rights Commission hold Israel